All right. Good morning and welcome back to the Money Advantage podcast. We have a really exciting interview for you today. We are going to be interviewing Rod Khleif, and he's an investor who's personally owned and managed over 2,000 properties. He is an entrepreneur who's built several, not seven, but several multi-million-dollar businesses. He's the author of How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Multifamily Properties. He's a coach and mentor for multifamily investors. He has a Bootcamp. He has a top-ranked podcast called The Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing, and he's also the founder of the Tiny Hands Foundation. And so you are doing a lot of great things. Rod Khleif, welcome to the show, and good morning.
Oh, what a treat to meet you, Rachel and Bruce, and I'm honored and humbled to be here. Let's have some fun today. Let's see what we can do to add some value to your incredible listeners.
Absolutely. Well, Bruce, thank you as well for being on the show this morning.
Yeah, Rod, our listeners are tired of me gushing about our guests because I do it all the time. But I don't think what people need to understand about Rod is, yeah, Rod's been successful, and he's gonna have this really nice perspective on real estate and so on and so forth. But really, Rod would tell you probably is there's a lot of different ways to do real estate, but it comes down to your mindset, and that is what I think is going to be different. With Rod talking today with some other people that you might run into. So Rod, we're really excited to have you.
Oh, thanks, Bruce. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead, and before we jump into the conversation, I just want to remind our listeners, if you are interested in investing, this is one step in a bigger journey to time and money freedom. That's why we have the cash flow system. First, you keep as much of the money that you make as possible. Then you want to protect that money and then invest. And today we're talking about multiple things because mindset is part of your foundation for building and creating wealth in the first place. And investing is that place where you put your dollars to work to earn cash flow and earn returns and get your money working for you so that you're not just trading time for money. So we're going to hit all ends of the spectrum today. And again, Rod, welcome to the show. Can you go ahead and share with us how, just a little bit about your background and how you got into multifamily investing in the first place?
Sure. Well, I'm going to go back a long ways. So I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old. We immigrated from the Netherlands. I was born in Holland with my mother, Zvancha, and my brother, Albert. And we ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived for 30 years. Now, we didn't have much. We bought all our clothes at the Goodwill and the Salvation Army, and that's what I wore until junior high school, until I get my first job and get clothes that I really wanted. I remember we ate expired food because that's all we could afford. Powdered milk because my mom wanted us to have milk, thought it was healthy at the time, and so it was powdered. So we struggled. Now, I'm sure that you have listeners that had it harder than we did, or maybe have it harder than we did right now. But I knew I wanted more, and luckily my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids. We always had a house full of kids, and she was an entrepreneur as well. But she babysat kids so we'd have enough money. And with her babysitting money, when I was 14, she bought the house across the street from us for about $30,000. And then when I was 17, about to graduate from high school, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. I'm like, what? Forget college. I'm getting into real estate. So
that's awesome.
I went out and got my broker's license right when I turned 18, which back then you could do with education. They got smart. Now you have to have some experience. But I was a real estate broker right when I turned 18. And I was going to be rich. So my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe about $10,000. But my third year, I made well over $100,000, which back in 1981 was decent money.
Oh, and absolutely.
So,
and especially you were probably 21 at the time, right?
I was 21.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to talk about, my live events and on my podcast, is what it took to 10x my income. And what it was what I discovered was the power and the importance of your mindset and your psychology. I met a gentleman that taught me about that, and that truly 80 to 90% of your success in anything is mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate or the business entrepreneurship or the investing type topics we talk about on our podcast. It's really, you have to take action with what you learn. Fast forward to today, like you said, I've owned over 2,000 properties. I've built 24 businesses. Several have been worth a lot of money. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And but there's a punchline. When that happens and you have a year like that, some people can tend to get a big head. Well, that was me. Okay. I thought I was a freaking real estate god. I couldn't fit my head through the door. And when that happens, God or the universe or whatever you believe will give you a smackdown. Well, that was 2008 for me. I lost that 17 million, a whole lot more. I actually lost $50 million in that contraction, crash, whatever you want to call it. And so, one of the things that, as I mentioned, that I love to talk about is mindset and psychology. And the mindset and psychology it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, and then what it took to get back to the success that I enjoy today. And I'm happy to dig into that topic with you. And I'd love to, actually, Rachel, if you want to humor me.
Yeah, let's go ahead. So we want to take this in multiple directions. We want to find out about the multifamily side and also about the psychology that is really behind what it did take for you to go from that losing 50 million up until this position that you are in today. So go ahead and share the psychology first as you're talking.
So let's start with the psychology and the mindset, because honestly, I believe that's foundational. Then we can get as deep as you want on multifamily too. So it'll be a lot of fun. So here's, in fact, if you're listening and you can get a pen and a paper, I'm going to take you through a little process that I think you'll really get value from. It's something that, again, we do at my live events. I do it with my coaching students, and it's really a goal-setting process. It'll only take a few minutes to describe it, but it's incredibly powerful. So let me take your listeners through it. So guys, pick an hour when you have a lot of energy, okay? And you're going to be uninterrupted, okay? Don't, make sure you're well hydrated. Make sure you're drinking the water. On that note, I'll have some. Make sure you don't do it after a meal. You just want a lot of energy. And sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life, okay? So it's not just some New Year's resolutions. It's, all the stuff. Start with the stuff, the houses, the boats, the cars, the jet skis, the planes, whatever it is. And take the lid off your brain. Imagine that if you write it down, you're going to get it, which I will tell you is not outside the realm of reality. Because when you write down your goals, it triggers something called your reticular activating system. And it's that subconscious filter in your brain that tells your brain what it thinks that you should be focused on subconsciously. And the greatest example of it is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them, and you buy that car, you see them everywhere. And
absolutely.
They were there before, you just didn't notice them. Now, so that's and so write down everything you could think of. Write down how much money you want in the bank in, say, a few years. How much money you want in the bank in, say, 10 years. Write down how much money cash flow you want from your investments, say, in 3 years, and then in 10 years. And write down, second home, and again, don't limit yourself. You're only limited by what's between your ears. So if you want a yacht or a private jet or a private island, whatever it is, write it down. And then once you can't think of another thing, write down what you want to do in this lifetime. So it's not just the stuff. Write down what you want to do. Maybe you want to climb mountains. I have a friend that's climbing every big peak over 14,000 feet. Maybe you want to write a book. I'm almost done with my second book. Maybe you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I did that about 6 months ago. I will never freaking do it again, but it's off the list, okay? So, whatever it is you want to do, write it down, all the stuff. Then lastly, there are actually two more things. Write down what you want to learn this lifetime. Maybe you want to learn a foreign language. I've been talking about this for 2 years now. I want to learn how to play the drums. My wife bought me a drum set. It's over in one of the buildings here in my compound. I still don't know what end of the stick to use, but I'm going to learn how to play those drums. And,
nice.
Yeah, and so everything you want to do, be, or have. But lastly, because we will do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves, write down who you want to help. Okay, so maybe you want to help your family. Maybe you want to help your children. Maybe you want to, do something for the community, for the elderly, for children in general, for the environment, whatever it is, write it down. Because that's where your passion is found. So once you've got all this stuff written down, the next step is I want you to put a time limit on each goal. How many years it's going to take you to achieve it. Put a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20. Recognizing that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in 10 or 20 years. I'll give you an example. When I was 18, I wanted to live on the beach, and we lived in Denver, and there's no beach in Denver. And, but I had pictures of palm trees and beach, and I'd visualize it, and I think about it. And 20 years later, I built this incredible $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. In fact, it was Gulf to Bay, where I owned the beach on one side and had my boathouses on the backside. And it was magnificent home, which was unthinkable when I was 18. but I just thought about it. I decided it, and that's the power of this, guys. And so once you've got a time limit on each goal, there's just a couple more quick steps. I want you to pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, if you got that, or let me rephrase that, not if, when you get that goal, it's like, oh my God, you cannot believe that goal. That's the one you want. Write that one down, put that on a separate sheet of paper. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals, put those on a separate sheet of paper, and leave a little room in between them. All right, so at this point, well, first of all, most people don't ever get this far. You're already ahead of 99% of the people on the planet because you're getting clarity on what it is you want. And candidly, when people ask me, how did I recover from losing $50 million? It was that clarity. It was refocusing on what I wanted, not what I didn't want. It's very easy, in this environment and the news and everything is to focus on negative. Okay, that's how news sells. I tell people, stand guard at the door to your mind. Unless I want amusement, I won't go on CNN or Fox anymore. It's just for amusement. So you want to stay focused on what you want, and that's how I was able to recover. So you've got these 4 goals, your number one juiciest goal, and your top 3 one-year goals. Now, you're in great shape here, but I want to take it one more step further. And the reason I'm going through all this is the fuel that's going to trigger your mindset, that's going to trigger your psychology to get you to get up early, to stay up late, to do whatever it takes to build that life of your dreams. And so now I want you to put a paragraph, a couple sentences, 2-3 sentences under each goal, why it is an absolute must for you to achieve it. And you want to use emotionally charged words like amazing and incredible and beautiful, so that we can have freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, with whoever we want. Whatever it is for you, write that down. And so I can show my kids what success looks like. So I can retire my husband or wife. So I can show my wife what success looks like. So put the why in there because the goals are really important. But I'll share with you in a minute that they are not the be all and end all. It's the why that's critical. And then there's one last step. And that is you've got your positive reasons why. I also want you to put some pain in there. Because as human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So you want to use this because this is the fuel. So you want to put in there in case you don't achieve the goal, what's going to happen. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't live a life of regret. So I don't fail my wife or husband. So I don't fail my children. Make it painful, okay? And I know that sounds harsh, but I'm here to tell you it's powerful because, again, we will do more to avoid pain than seek pleasure. And so you want to use that. This is the fuel. And we don't want to live a life of regret. There was a nurse in Australia. She was a hospice nurse. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she used to counsel patients, and she asked them a question at the end of their lives. She said, do you have any regrets? And she even wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was, Rachel and Bruce? It was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I knew I could have done. I say screw that, So this is what helps. Again, this is what got me out from underneath the rock in 2009 when my world had collapsed. I mean, there were people in the Great Depression that jumped out of buildings for losing less than I did. And this really works. So anyway, that's it.
That is awesome. Well, I appreciate you walking through that exercise, and I can completely feel your energy and passion for creating what you've created. And it's no wonder that you have been able to create what you have because of this type of focus and really purpose and passion behind everything that you're doing. And you're absolutely right. What you focus on is what you get. And it's in the small things.
Positive and negative.
Absolutely.
Positive and negative. In fact, I'll give you a little clip on that. So many people get sucked into the negative. If you meet someone and you tell them, they ask you how you're doing, you say, oh, I'm fantastic. Oh my God, life's amazing. They'll kind of take a step back. But if you say, oh, my leg's killing me, I've got this back pain, they're like, oh, come here, brother. I feel your sister. And so we associate and connect through pain and suffering. And so very, very important to be careful with that. But let me add one more thing, okay, before we move on. I know you want to get into multifamily. One more quick thing. I want to talk about, and I didn't even know what it was I was doing, but I want to give you some strategy on what to do after you've got your goals written down, okay? So I'll give you, and it's visualization effectively, but it'll only take a couple minutes. Let me land the plane on this because it's really important.
This is very good.
Okay, so I'll give you some public examples of visualization, then I'll give you some of my own personal ones real quick. So Jim Carrey, flat broke, wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was flat broke. And if you Google it, it's right there. In fact, he buried the check with his father. And he used to go up by the Hollywood sign. He'd look at it and visualize cashing it, and that's how much he made for Dumb and Dumber. Another great example that's not as public but is amazing is there was a millionaire in New Orleans, and he took one of the Ninth Ward schools. I believe it was the Ninth Ward, but he took a class at that school, and only like a certain percentage of those kids went to college, and it was in the teens, like 17, 18, 19% of those kids actually went to college. What he did was he bused those kids to a college for one day. I think it was Loyola, but to a college, and they paired them up with a college student. Each kid got paired up with a college student. They spent the day with that kid. They went to the classes, to the library, to the cafeteria, walked around campus. They got to viscerally experience college life, okay? Then they bust them back to the school. Then for a couple of minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, I don't know the exact number, but for a few minutes every day while they were in school, they would close their eyes and visualize themselves going to college. Over 80% went to college.
Wow, that's
the
so
power
cool.
of visualization. And I'll give you some personal examples. So I didn't even realize what it was I was doing until that movie The Secret came out. You know about the law of attraction?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, that's what I've been doing for 20 years. So when I was 18, I knew I had to have a 4-door car because I'm going to be a real estate broker, right? I'm going to make a lot of money selling people houses. So I got this bone ugly Ford Granada, bench seats in the front, ugliest piece of you-know-what you've ever seen. But I had to have a 4-door car. Well, I worked with a guy that had a Corvette, and he let me drive it. And that piece is really important as well. That experiential piece is so important. So if there's a house you want, go to an open house of a house like that. If there's a car you want, go test drive it. I'll give you a great recent example for me. I took my wife to the Amalfi Coast, and I got sold on the fact that I want to rent or buy a yacht and do that whole tip of Amalfi and Spain and Greece and Croatia. I want to do that. That's my bucket list now. So I went to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, BS'd my way onto some big yachts, sat in the captain's chair, visualized myself owning a yacht, walked around, laid on the bed, and because it works, guys. So anyway, back to my example. So I drove that Corvette and like, man, this is amazing. So I got a picture out of a magazine. I mean, you couldn't even spell internet yet. So I got a picture out of a magazine, put it on the visor of that bone ugly Granada. Every time I sat there, it was right there looking at me. Within a year or two, I had a beautiful Corvette. Now I'm going to give you a couple other examples, but I want to pre-frame this for your listeners to say this is not me bragging, because the stuff I'm going to share with you does not interest me anymore, but it's great to hopefully inspire you. So this is back when the TV show Magnum P.I. was out. The actor's name was
Tom Selleck.
Thank you. He was a detective, and he drove this.
I'm old, so I can contribute that.
Yeah. I just turned 60. So there you go. But he drove this awesome Ferrari 308, red Ferrari, and I thought that was the coolest freaking thing I'd ever seen. So I got a picture of that actual Ferrari, put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it. Last example. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini, and they had the Lamborghini Countach, when those doors slid up. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I had the posters in my bedroom with the bikinis and all that. And what's crazy is my son collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30 or 40, and he had a model of the exact same color and style that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But anyway, we won't digress. But the point is, the pictures work. In fact, I'll show you something. I've got a paper planner, and I'll land the plane. I got a paper planner. I'm a dinosaur. Yes, I use Outlook too, but I love handwriting what I'm planning. So it's on today. In the back of this thing are pictures that have been in here for 20 years, okay?
Oh, nice.
The first pictures are my gratitude pictures, my babies. My daughter's 29. She's in India right now, actually. A little worried about her. She's doing great. She's doing a yoga thing. My son is 25. But these are my gratitude pictures. Guys, everything starts, as you know, from a place of gratitude. Like I've got vision boards now. I've got a gratitude vision board with the things that I care about. Then I've got the pictures that I wanted, okay? What's crazy is this top picture looks just like my house on the beach. I had 10-foot glass. It was butt together. It was 80 feet long. I had travertine floors just like this here. I mean, that was the view. And what's even crazier is I lost that house and all the fun back in 08 and 09. But this pictures down here. Okay, you can see behind me. See the walls in the picture? See that wall?
Yeah.
Look behind me.
Yeah.
Is that insane? It's the same freaking wall in my compound that I live in now. I have an incredible compound. I've got 6 buildings, giant main house, beautiful guest house on the water, exercise facility, media center, video center. I could go on and on. It's like a park. You can see it's like a park. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can look out across the water, and there's my old house there right across the bay that I used to live in. True story.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway, these pictures work, and then other stuff like stupid shit like watches. I got a few $100,000 worth of watches here. The Lamborghini before I ever got it, the Rolls Royce, the Bentley, all the stuff that I got because I had pictures. So that's the last tip. Get pictures, put them around you. Even if, have them blown up at Walgreens or CVS, put them on the wall because it freaking works. So,
all right. So let's
completely landed the plane.
You have. So let's take that and let's connect that over into what steps did you take then? You lost the $50 million. And then somehow were you in multifamily already at that point?
Yeah, no, let's talk about how that happened. Because let me share something. For those of you that understand real estate, I was at a 30% loan to value in 07.
Yep.
I only owed 30 cents on the dollar, and I still crashed and burned. And here's why.
Wow.
I had 800 houses, renting long term, and I had multiple apartment complexes. The problem was my 800 houses were 2 hours that way and 2 hours that way and everywhere in between. Okay.
So you had a really narrow window. You were not diversified.
It was I was too spread out logistically.
Oh, okay.
So and I thought the gravy train was going to last forever. I thought 80 million baby boomers getting old and getting cold. Florida was recession proof. Well, it was ground zero for the freaking. I actually went upside down. So I was at a 30% loan to value. My inventory dropped more than 70%. So I actually went upside down in value as well.
Oh, wow.
But from a cash flow standpoint, I wasn't focused on the cash flow. In fact, that's the subtitle of my book, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, i.e. the new rule is cash flow, period, forget value.
And that's really important because we're always talking about how to have assets that produce cash flow as opposed to just appreciation and expecting maybe to flip that property. And certainly there's different kinds of investors and different strengths. But at the same time, we really want to make sure that you're in a position that you are creating cash flow with your assets, not just thinking, I have $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million on paper. It doesn't really matter if you have those assets on paper if it's not creating and producing that income in your life.
Well, I got that memo in a big way. So give you some ideas of why it crashed and burned. So, in my apartment complexes, first of all, Florida has no state income tax, so the property taxes are higher, impacts cash flow. I had properties in wind and flood zones, much higher insurance, impacts cash flow. But the big one was the logistics. If I send someone to one of my apartment complexes to fix something, everything's the same. The washers for the plumbing is the same. The HVAC is the same. The appliances are the same. Locks are the same. They could stockpile parts and be in and out in an hour. Done. Boom. If I had to send someone to one of my houses that's an hour away, it's 2 hours round trip to get there. Then every house is different. They got to go see what's wrong. Then they've got to find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we had an account. Could be another hour round trip. And then if you've ever fixed anything, you realize you get into it and you realize you need more stuff. And so what takes, an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my houses. And you multiply that times 800 and that really hurt cash flow. Then lastly, most of my properties were rented by contractors of some sort, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, drywallers, roofers, and that fell off a freaking cliff in 2008. Nobody was doing anything. And so they didn't have work. And so it was just like the perfect storm for me. But the reason I started my podcast, and I'm super excited, we're about to break 7.5 million downloads.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
Thank you. And the reason I started it was because throughout all that, my apartments did just fine. If I'd have just been in apartments, I'd be on the back of my yacht right now. Okay. But it was the houses that pulled me down. And of course, in my brilliance, I packaged packages of houses with my apartments to save a 20 basis points on an interest rate. And, looking back on it, wasn't the smartest move because I'd still have them if I hadn't done that. But the point is, if you're going to invest long term, for God's sakes, don't do single family. Do at the very least do a 4-plex or a 10 unit or a 20 unit. It's easier, it's safer, you scale faster, and on and on. And that's really what I try to push and teach people at my events, at my live events, and on my podcast.
So Rod, that makes perfect sense, and thanks for your little bits of wisdom. But How does a person find value in that place right now? Multifamily.
What place? Multifamily?
Multifamily, because of, it seems like everybody wants to get there. So everybody's trying to, just scales of economy. Then if everybody wants to get it, it kind of gets, ratcheted up.
The prices keep going up. Sure. Yeah. I mean, we are in what I call irrational exuberance right now. Okay. And there are a lot of it looks like 2006 all over again to me. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I am extremely conservative, as you can imagine now. But that said, we bought 1,000 doors last year. Okay. And they're screaming deals. I mean, 10 to 15% cash on cash, 20% IRR at 65% loan to value. Okay. So I mean, incredible returns. Right now we have 500 doors under contract and another 500 that are real close to being under contract, and they're all fantastic deals, and all value add plays. But of course, I'm in a bit of a unique situation in that I'm in the ears of 50,000 people a week, and so if I've got a deal, I throw it out there, and we only deal with accredited investors, so I can legally talk about our deals, and so our dance card gets full very quick, and also I've got people. Students, I've got over 350 students that bring us deals and want to partner on deals, and we're helping them and on and on. So again, I'm in kind of a unique situation, but to the average person, let me say this. Are there deals out there? You better believe there are. Yes, but you have to kiss a lot of frogs. I mean, I think we're probably evaluating 200 assets right now to get under contract on something. I think that's probably a realistic number. And I mean, fully evaluating a good chunk of those. And so I've got a whole team doing it. But we've got a beautiful asset right now in Cincinnati. Another one that I just went to yesterday in Atlanta, just incredible, fastest growing area north of Atlanta. We've got one in Bradenton here in Sarasota, Bradenton, gorgeous. We've got some really nice stuff, very solid conservative stuff with super returns that we're doing right now. So, but yes. There are mistakes being made, Bruce, to your point, a lot of mistakes being made right now. Sometimes we're in what's called best and final, where they're asking for the best offers from brokers asking for best offers. They'll select like 3 to 5 people to put in their best offer. And we are scratching our heads when we see what some of these properties sell for, what it's called trade for. And I mean, we anticipate having some opportunity in a few years when these deals go south, frankly.
So, okay. Yeah. I think that's the thing I try to tell people all the time is that, just because you have money and you have the ability to buy real estate doesn't mean you should buy it. You actually have to evaluate it and be patient, because if you're patient, when things do correct or when a couple of deals do go south like you're talking about, then you can swoop in and understand what a good deal looks like at that time.
Yes.
Clearly, you do know what a good deal looks like because you're evaluating this many to find the one property that you're.
Right. Repetition's the mother of skill. I mean, if you want to learn something, do it. Okay. Period. And my book even has not that I'm plugging my book because it's in Kindle on Amazon, but it's got a 90-day action plan. It's never what to do. It's always doing what you know. It's always right. You have to take action. And are you going to make some mistakes? Sure. But if you've got someone like you guys or me looking over your shoulder, you're likely to be fine. And the beautiful thing about multifamily real estate is it's primarily empirical. Okay, it's numbers. And if you get the numbers right and you ask all the right questions in due diligence so you don't make a mistake, it's kind of hard to make a mistake, honestly. In fact, on that note, I've got something free I'll give your listeners. I used to give away my book, the one that's on Amazon, for free. I gave away 20,000 copies for free. And then my team's like, hey, stupid, why don't we make some money with this at some point? And so we put it on Amazon. So I created this due diligence checklist. Okay. It's called the Multifamily Property Toolbook. It's almost 70 pages, or maybe 80 pages, 70 or 80 pages. And it's like a due diligence checklist on steroids. And there's no fluff in it. There's no sales pitch in it. It's literally just every question you should ask if you're doing the due diligence on a multifamily. This isn't for single family, but if you're interested in buying an apartment building, text my name, Rod, to 41411, and we'll give it to you. It's free. And it's an awesome, I'm real proud of this. In fact, I just used this yesterday when I was doing the due diligence on that Atlanta asset. I was there yesterday with my wife, and I was looking through the questions in here. I think it's the most comprehensive thing I've ever seen or due diligence. So
that's
there you go.
excellent.
Well,
That's
thank you for
excellent.
offering
So
that.
yeah, thank you very much. And I think that's a huge value. We'll make sure that that's in our show notes as well with the text code. So I want to take two streams of information here. So one, where did you go from that $50,000 negative? If you can just lead us to
Rachel, $50 million.
50 million.
million. I'm sorry. Thank you.
There's an extra zero in there or two.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that those zeros are in there. The 50 million negative. Where did you start? Besides the visualization, what action steps did you take to pull out of that? And then what I want to find out is for somebody who is hearing you say, hey, if you're interested in long-term cash flow, start looking at multifamily. What is the most important thing for them to do to get started? So I want to pull both of those threads.
So what did I do to recover?
Yes.
What I did was I focused on what I wanted. I mean, sure, I hid under a rock for a couple of months. Okay. I mean, I thought I was set for life. I mean, 50 million net worth, I don't know what, well over 800 properties, multiple apartment complexes. I thought I was set for life, 30% loan to value. So it was a real painful process, but I don't think I was under that rock for more than 2 or 3 months. But for a while, I could see it was an eyeball poking out, feeling sorry for myself, licking my wounds. But then I refocused. Now, luckily, I've been around Tony Robbins for 20 years. I've followed him around the planet. Every year I do 1 or 2, 3, 4 events, and being around that energy, and around people in that mastermind that I was in there, people that are asking you, people that are thriving when it's rough. And I've created my own mastermind, multifamily boardroom it's called, but I know the value of being around people that aren't focused on the pain. And most of my friends were suffering as well. They were going through the same thing. I mean, countries went bankrupt. For God's sakes, the whole country reeled from that for years. But I got around people that were thriving. And people that, that would ask me, hey, what are you doing? Why are you feeling sorry for yourself? Why aren't you doing this? Take action instead of licking my wounds. And that was a big help. I got a personal coach as well. I got a business coach that helped me. And then, but the key is the focus and remembering what I wanted, and I got back much, much faster than the first time. And that's how it works. That's why I called it a seminar. It wasn't a failure. It was a seminar. It's only a failure, It's only a failure if you don't get back up or you don't, don't get the lessons or don't learn. Absolutely. And like I said, I've built 24 businesses. I think 3 have been worth tens of millions of dollars, maybe 4 have been worth tens of millions of dollars, but most of them have been spectacular flaming seminars. Okay. But you learn, you grow. I met Sarah Blakely, the billionaire owner of Spanx, at one of my masterminds. And she told me that her father used to ask them, their kids around the dinner table, what have you failed at today? Is that an awesome question to ask your kids to not fear failure? Because we fail our way to success. Setbacks are inevitable. It's just, getting back up, brushing yourself off and keeping your eye on that goal. And that's kind of a success formula, actually, is when you have that setback, reassociate with your goals and change your approach. And if you have another setback, reassociate with what you want, change your approach. And you just rinse and repeat. And if you do that, like in 2010, I built another company. I built a litigation support company. It was about to go bankrupt. I remember distinctly 2010. I changed my approach, turned it into a $10 million company, 60 employees, sold it last year. I mean, keep that in mind, those of you listening, guys. If you hit a speed bump, you hit a wall, just stay focused on what you want and just change your approach and rinse and repeat that process until you get what you want. Because God's delays are not God's denials.
I love that. Well, this has been really valuable just in terms of the mindset. And I think that can apply to any area of life. It can absolutely apply to building a business, building your real estate portfolio, building anything that you want. And most of our listeners are business owners. They're entrepreneurs. They're thinking entrepreneurially. That's a hard word to say, but
say that 3 times fast.
I know.
Let me say this. We if you have listeners that are accredited, we're always looking for investors ourselves. So if you guys are interested in looking at one of our multifamily deals, text the word partner to 41411 and we'll chat with you about it. But the other thing I want to mention, if you'll let me pound my chest for a second, is we have these 3-day boot camps. We just had one in
I was actually just going to ask you about that. You were.
All right, fantastic. So we had one in Los Angeles last, and it was amazing. We had 600 people there. I was in a little pain because I tore meniscus in my knee, but I got through it. But it was just, we had a lot of fun. We had and basically we do these 3-day boot camps, and we effectively give you just about everything you need. I think really we give you everything you need to take action on your dreams. Lots of people have bought property shortly after attending the boot camp. And, we teach you how to find deals, how to finance them, how to do the due diligence, how to evaluate them, how to manage them, everything. And then I spend a lot of time on mindset too, because it's so freaking important, on pushing through fear, identifying limiting beliefs, pushing through those, creating an identity for yourself that pulls you into it. And on and on and on. So, it's a blast. We dance, we have music, and it's not just like your stuffy real estate seminar. I will tell you that. But it is drinking through a fire hose. In fact, on Saturday night, it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On Saturday night, I usually have somewhere between $2 and $3 billion in assets represented by the panelists on stage, and we stay till 10 o'clock at night. We usually bring in a cash bar, and it gets kind of stupid by about 9. But we have a lot of fun, and they're awesome events. And so if someone's interested, I want to give your listeners a real incentive. So my next one, well, I'll tell you what, I don't know when this will air, so I'm just going to give you our global website, which is rodsbootcamp.com. And I know that we've got one coming in Orlando, and we've got one coming in Dallas. But if you use the code TMA, I'll give your listeners another $100 off. And I will tell you that the prices are already ridiculously cheap. I mean, I think you could effectively with that code go for about $200. So it's kind of a no-brainer. It's just me for 3 days. I don't bring in outside speakers to sell you crap like everybody else does. It's just me. The speakers that come in are educating. I have a syndication attorney. I have a loan broker talks about financing. So it's all educational, and we have a blast.
Right. Thank you.
Anyway, use the code TMA, guys, if you want to come. I promise you'll be glad you did. And if you're truly interested in multifamily, I've got this Facebook group. It's largest on the planet now for multifamily. It's about 31,000 people in it. And if you go to multifamilycommunity.com, it's a direct link to that Facebook group. And the reason I bring that up is if you search the word boot camp in that group, you'll see the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have raved about the boot camp. So you don't have to have me sell you. They'll sell you. So.
That's absolutely awesome. So we've given you several ways to be able to connect to Rod Khleif if you're interested in finding out more about him and what he does. The boot camp, there was a free toolbook. Text Rod.
Yep. Text Rod to 41411. But if they're going to do the boot camp, make sure they use the code TMA.
Yep.
To get $100 off.
Yep. And we'll make sure. Yep. I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well. That's to rodsbootcamp.com for any of the Orlando or Dallas upcoming events. And then also that you just have your deals available as well if they want to text partner to 41411.
41411. Yep.
Excellent. Well, Rod,
my website has tons of free resources, books and articles.
Why don't you share that?
Yeah. If you're interested in multifamily, even not actually, because there's a lot of motivational stuff there too. RodKhleif.com. And my last name is a little weird. It's KHLEIF as in Frank.com, RodKhleif.com. And there's a ton of free stuff there, tons.
Absolutely awesome. Well, thank you for sharing a ton of value. You promised that you would, and you absolutely have. We very much encourage our listeners to go ahead and get these resources, dig your hands into the tools that Rod is providing, and you'll see why he's so passionate and fired up about what he is, because this stuff works. So go ahead and get those resources. Rod, thank you so much for being on the show today. Oh,
it's been a blast, Rachel. Of course, it always is when you're the one doing most of the talking. It's like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Get People to Talk. So I had a great time.
That's awesome. Well, I'm happy to hear that you had a great time. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rod.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.